Once upon a time, there was a bold Terran player who sought to attack the Zergs. This Terran was so confident in themselves, so aware of the things that Zerg could do, that not only did they do their build and fight against the swarm, but they tried an action movie one-liner as well. This is that story. Root Neuro doing standard things, as a righteous standard macro Zerg should. Hatch gas pool. That's 16 hatch, 18 gas, 17 pool. And this Korea Boo person is making a factory and a marine after the first Reaper. Oscar the Overlord admired the Terran base, curious about it, wondering why there were so many beeps and whirring sounds. Rather obnoxious if you were to ask Oscar the Overlord. Nevertheless, the marine just stood there, unable to see what was up on this pedestal, and it was Oscar the Overlord. Meanwhile, the swarm expanded into 3 bases of a setup, and then a great deal of Zerglings rushed into the base. The fire cars grumpily drove home, trying to defend the Terran's dominion against the bugs that had infested it. More SCVs were killed. The Terran's economy was in shambles, and the Zerg now knew that they intended to all-in the shit out of the swarm. This is 3 barracks, a factory and a tech lab and a starport with a reactor. Meanwhile, the Zerg droned all the way. 55 drones. Lair. And the Baneling's nest. As well as 2 evolution chambers. The Hellions surged out on the map once again, trying to get some damage in, and hoping that a bunch of Lings didn't shoot into the base. But this time, there was a solid wall of supply depots and an engineering bay. The Zerg opted to take a 4th base expansion to the south and the east of their 3rd base. The Hellions drove around, trying to stem back the tide of this creep. But it was for naught, for the Queens were vicious and ferocious as they attacked the Hellions. The Terran massed up additional forces, marines, tanks, and the like. Even a medivac was built. Wait, not yet. There was a Viking randomly to deny the Zerg Overlord scouting the 2 base all-in that they had already scouted from the Lings earlier on. And it was nearly time. The infantry weapons were going to be upgraded, and at that moment the Terran would strike. Marines, recently trained, stood in the base wondering, "Where are we going?" And at that moment the commander said, "We are going to attack the swarm." The Lings were hiding just outside, and the medivac spotted them. So the Terrans stood at their natural, displaying their army, flaunting it before the Overlord. "Look what I have, I'm going to attack you with this," in particular. But they spared the Overlord, for they knew he was a non-combatant. And the Lings rushed in to try to get some damage, and the Terran lifted the depots just in time. "Not this time," said Korea Boo, feeling very confident and strong in that moment, turning back home with their all-in to defend a few Zerglings. "Not that time either," thought the Terran as they turned back home once again to defend their home base. But all the while, the Zerg was massing up Banes, Lings, and Queens. A mighty force that would present a major problem for this Terran. There were only 3 medivacs and 3 tanks. The Viking was even landed to help out with the ground troops. A scan was sent out to clear creep, and the Marines were microed amazingly well. However, they were in too few in number to stop the swarm, and they were utterly run over. And at that moment they lost the will to fight, even before the additional bombas broke down their home base and attacked their SCVs. This is a real story based on actual events on NA Ladder.